Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business, where we want you to get creative, get those juices flowing, and start thinking outside the box as a business owner.
We've been talking a lot this week because we keep seeing on social media and through conversations with people just in general about needing to get some cash in the bank pretty darn quick. Whether that's for, I don't know, let's say your dog's got an operation that you need to have, and Jesus, like Axel this year is killing me off with the stuff that's happening for him. He's still got freaking bites all over his legs now, and that's more allergy tablets that I need to go and sort.
You've got loads of bites over
I know.
your legs.
Oh, it's painful. But yes, these dogs cost money. Everything costs money. You've got your mortgage bills to pay and everything. Like there is a lot of pressure on everybody all the time. And I think, I won't say we forget it as entrepreneurs, but I think we forget just how amazing our position is if you're in the right mindset to go, do you know what? That massive bill has just now come in off the vets. How the fuck am I going to pay for that? Because that could easily be the best part of 10K, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Easily. And if you've not got access to credit, then how do you even make that happen? So the conversation has led us to looking at things that I suppose we used to do in our dog training business, and also how you can apply it into yours in going, what would you actually do if you needed to kind of grab 10K and do it quickly?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, if I look back to when I was doing classes, they would consistently pretty much fill the puppy classes, that is. But if ever there was a dry period, then I suppose my go-to thing would be, I had a mailing list, but I didn't really use it, but I'd probably stick an email out and say, hi, everyone.
Oh, no. The sales email.
Yeah. And actually, I'm trying to think back, whether I would have said, I've got a space left in my puppy classes. Or I'll probably do that on social media, actually. But the email might be just to advertise a one-off workshop that I'd put on, because I'd go, oh my God, I've got a Saturday free. I've got a few hours. I can bring some people in. But with no real, I don't know what I was going to do with those people after that day had happened. And I've got nothing to then enroll them onto to follow on from that. But I just thought, well, I'll get them into my world, and then I'll think of that once that's happened. So I might do that. And then on social media, I might just put like 2 spaces left, get your place. Do you want your puppy? Brilliant. And trained and all that kind of stuff. And never really again thinking of how that looks and how it might read to somebody. And in all honesty, I think it probably read like desperate.
Yeah. Did it work? Did you get reinforced?
No, not really.
No.
That's why I never really. I know social media, I mean, this is a long time ago now, and social media was about, but it wasn't the way that, it wasn't there in the way it is now. And it wasn't the forefront of everything that I would think about or do. And I'm well aware that the pressure of social media these days is that most people would think social media, put stuff on it. That's the way I'm going to get people in. So yeah, I suppose I'd try it. I might do a post, I might do an email, and then I'd leave it and just accept that I've got a lower month that month.
Yeah. And you hear this, don't you? Like when you get talking to people and you're delving into the nooks and crannies of like, what have you tried then? What have you tried to bring in some money? And they'll say things like you've just said. But then the story comes out of, well, it didn't work. Like nothing works. And then this whole big blanket statement comes out, and we get a little bit toys throughout the pram, like nothing works. Nobody wants anything. I'm going to go and get a job, like a proper job again. And for me, it just feels really sad, because I have got a ridiculous amount of financial pressure, as I think we've mentioned in a previous episode. And my parents still turn around to me now and go, would you not feel safer back in your old job? I'm like, absolutely not. Because if the shit hits the fan, I know that I have the ability and the opportunity to look within the business and go, how can I make that money? Because you've got unlimited opportunities, haven't you? If you really think about it. It's like there's nobody going to cap you at the end of the month and say, oh, you've worked your 40 hours each week. here's your salary. Like, you could do whatever you want. And it's a task we do quite regularly, I'd say, just to keep the creative juices flowing in our brains on, right, okay, so let's assume now that we do need to make 10K and make it quick. Whilst running it through the longer term strategy in which we talk about, which is making sure that you've got that purpose for your business sorted and you've got your values, you have to run everything through there to make sure that it's fine and ethical and you feel good about it. But assume you've done that now. Where would we go? What are kind of some examples that we could give to get people thinking, if I do that, I might be able to get some cash in?
Well, I'll tell you what I wouldn't have done back then to what I would do now is that I would, my natural...
Get scared when you do this little laugh. It's like that brain is remembering something traumatic for my brain.
It's not traumatic. It
might be for my ears.
But when I look at it now, do you know when what you don't know, you don't know?
Yeah.
And then you look back and go, oh my God, why did that not occur to me?
Mm-hmm.
So like what we would do now is we would reach out to people that know us already. So they're in our world already. They've worked with us previously. They trust us. You know, we've got a relationship with them. It never occurred to me ever in those days back then to go back to people that I really knew, apart from that one odd email that I might do, like buy this workshop thing. But I wouldn't ever try and like nurture that relationship back, you know, or just ask some questions like, how's it going with your puppy? Like, they must be like 1 year old now. Like, how are they doing? You know, do you need any more help? And you know, kind of even just ask innocent questions like that because I care, regardless of, yes, I need some money. Like, I'm genuinely interested. Like, how is that dog that you brought along to puppy classes that was a really cute little black Labrador that, you know, ball of fun. And it never occurred to me to ever do that. And yet now we would always go back to the people that we know.
Yeah, it's the first place and it's the best place.
It just makes sense, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
absolutely makes sense. Like, why would you try and reach people that have never met you, don't know anything about you? They don't know whether that you can bring the results in for them because they just don't know enough about you yet. And yet that is where all of my focus would go pretty much. Now it's very different from that. We would literally pick up a phone or we'd send a little video or a voice note and just be like, again, starting with the how are things going? Tell me what's good. Tell me what isn't so good. And just getting that conversation going. And that's where it starts because at the end of the day, we're humans, aren't we? And we like to chat and we like to find out things about each other and everyone likes to talk about their dog. So it just makes so much logical sense to me. But why didn't it before? I don't know the answer to that, but it just didn't.
Yeah, it's almost this this mindset of like a product-based business, I suppose. Like you buy once and then it's done. Like you've received the thing. Next, move on to the next thing. And it just goes to show how prevalent I think that mindset is in everybody though, because that's the hardest part is attracting cold people to you.
Yeah.
It is the hardest part.
And we focus on the hardest part way more than the much easier part, don't we?
Yeah. And that hardest part, like attracting all those cold people out there is absolutely a necessity, but it's the long game. Because that's where you're building up your brand awareness, whether you're doing it as a business brand or a personal brand, that's where people are getting to know you long term.
Well, let's take this podcast for example. There are people that will be listening to this who've been listening to us right from the start. And there'll be people who maybe this is the first episode they've ever listened to. And so we can't expect those people that have only just started hearing about us and like taking all that information in to suddenly go, oh my God, I want to go and work with those guys. They're amazing. Like it's just not realistic. Whereas the people who maybe have been listening to us for a while might start kind of building that little bit of trust about us and go, do you know what? The more I hear from these guys, I like what they're about. I like what they're saying. And maybe I might, you know, if I did feel like I needed that help, maybe they're the right people for me.
Yeah. And that's it. It's that consistent messaging, that consistent piece that needs to go out all the time. But again, that's the long play. Like we knew the podcast was going to be a long play strategy for us. Like we know the book is a long play strategy for us because it's getting our message out and it's getting the awareness. But those two things are not things that we would do now if we were like, shit, how on earth are we going to, like, take it back to that example, like pay for this operation that is happening like right now or next month. Okay, and yes, I may be able to source some kind of financing even, but I've still got to pay it. I've still got to pay that credit card off.
Actually, back to the book a second. Let's look at how most people would view writing a book. So this is something that we have received as feedback from writing the book from people that are around us, close to us. So you write the book and it's cost you X amount to write it. How many book sales do you need to like make that money back?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
And this is how people would look at that tangibly and go, well, that's how to make that money back and more. Like, people keep buying your book. People, like, that's how you're going to do it. And it's like, no, because the book is there for awareness and people to learn from and absorb and all of that stuff. So we could look at that as it's not going to be a short-term strategy, obviously, writing a book, because that takes a bit of time and then to get people to buy it. But it's that kind of thinking, isn't it? Like, we're thinking about the book as a much longer game. And yet there are people that are looking at that book going, you can just get that book out there in a bookshop and people will buy it and you'll get money for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this is where arguably you could use possibly social media as an example that's a little bit akin to it. So you're unlikely to, and again, I see a lot of people doing this in every industry. It's, again, not just specific to ours, but, oh shit, I need to get some money in. So I'm just going to do a post on social media now. And like you alluded to with yours and your examples, this thing is happening. Like, let me just whack a workshop on, or let me just do this and let me just do that. And again, like, it's not that there's necessarily anything bad with doing that, because it can work, but only if you've had that long play strategy running in the background and you've got an audience to talk to.
But also, when I put those posts out, I'd look back at my feed and go, there's probably nothing since the last time I tried to sell them something.
Yes, there's no value being given outside of it, you're just selling.
Yeah, and there's no nurturing and there's no like getting to know me in between. It's literally just this flashy advert coming up saying buy this thing right now and a bit of urgency about it. 2 spaces left, get on there. And then I'm like, oh, no wonder they didn't bloody buy it then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do I expect?
Yeah. And actually, when you said about the email list as well, and I have done this as well, and it's just so hardwired into us to go, ooh, there's 50 to 100 people on that email list. Like, surely someone's going to buy it. But again, if this is the first time they're hearing from me and it's like, oh, hi, you gave me your email address like maybe a year ago. Do you want to buy this thing? Do you want to do it? It's really good. I've discounted it and everything.
So you've got to be in.
Are you
I had
sure?
about 200 people on an email list that I never used apart from the salesy emails. I would literally go, it would literally be a year or so before
Wow.
Yeah. It's such a waste, isn't it?
It is a waste.
Because you are like, you've got these people there almost like lying dormant and they're just not, they're ghosted from you for all that time. And then suddenly you appear all full of energy. Got this new thing, da 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 da. Tumbleweed.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I've seen people do ads as well. So like paid ads. And again, it's a bit of a grey one, paid ads, I think, because I think you'll get some bites off the back of doing it. So you'll get more than if you don't do anything. However, for that to work effectively and attract the right people for your offer, it's a long-term strategy again, maybe like medium term. But the downside to that is actually you've got to invest some cash to get the inquiries off the back. So if you're then trying to generate cash, well, it's a risk, which some people will happily take, I think, and go, do you know what? I am going to risk it. There's a book we read not too long ago, and I'm sure we've referenced him on loads of other stuff because we think he's awesome. That guy, Alex Hormozy. Mm-hmm. And what was the amount he spent on that credit card on a daily basis? It was over like $3,000 or something, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I'm sure it was like $3,000 a day, and it was a risk. And his credit card bills like racked up to like over $100,000 just in order to get some sales off the back of it. I was like, that is impressive. But he grew that business to like a multi-million-pound business in a very short space of time because of that risk he took.
Yeah. That is a very calculated risk. That is a very...
I wouldn't even say it's calculated. It's just, it's a big risk.
And it's not something we would advise people do. So don't be doing that.
No, it's, but these are the things that it's always worthwhile doing. Like, just allow your brain to feel creative, even if you don't think that that's a natural position to be in. Start thinking a bit outside the box and going, well, okay, if your life depended on it, and maybe, and again, this may sound a little bit harsh, but with that example of your dog needs an operation and it's the best part of 10K, for some people out there, it may not cause that much sense of urgency. And I don't mean that in a way of you don't care about the dog, you don't love the dog and all of that. But weirdly, that pain point is it's not strong enough because maybe you could easily go and get a credit card. And do you know what I mean? Like, you can almost delay that payment for 2 years on a 0%. You can balance transfer it so that that urgency bit's not quite there. But if you can't get that credit, or I don't know, like loads of stuff is happening, like maybe you've got bailiffs knocking on your door, or just think of how you would feel if you were put in a position where you're like, shit, if I do not bring in this money this month, this is going to have a massive impact on my life. I literally may have to give up all of this stuff, all the stuff like that horrible pain point bit, because that is when you realize just how much opportunity you've got at your fingertips, really, and how much we don't do on a regular basis in order to try and get those inquiries in.
No, because, let's face it, most people need a bit of pressure to make them kick up the bum and do the work.
Yeah, we're crap with that pressure.
Yeah.
We will just sit there and procrastinate and do numerous amounts of voice notes and then go, oh shit.
But I actually think most people are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's face it. We were talking to somebody yesterday. It was like, I'm never going to do it on an assignment on the first day. It's always going to be the night before, or, pretty close to it anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it gives you that, oh my God, I've got to do it. But it's also a little bit fun, isn't it? Like that adrenaline that you go, right, come on, we can do this, we can bring this in. And then that feeling of like elation once you've got to win. And then that gives you that motivation to do it again, doesn't it? Like, if I can do that once, I can do it again. It's like that craving, that kind of adrenaline again, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't really considered that part of it.
I always used to do that. Whenever I'd get a sale into my dog training business, boom, like it just spurs me up, like, when's the next call? Come on. Like, that's what it would make me feel like. It was really instrumental in how it, and then if I didn't get one, you sort of like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit down. And then if you don't get another one, I'm a bit more down. Yeah. So you've got to try and find something to bring you back up again.
But you can see, can't you, even in that approach, and actually these are words and phrases I think I see a lot again on social media, of this boom and bust, this feast and famine thing where you're like, yeah, I've had like a few really good months and then tumbleweed and there's nothing there. And it's just, hello, where are you all? And it's this constant yo-yo effect, which is what makes you feel really unsettled and unstable as a human being, knowing that you've got to do all this stuff. And I think the purpose of this episode is to really highlight the fact that in order to have a sustainable business, you have to have the long-term strategy playing in the background, but it is absolutely okay to inject a bit of short-term strategy to go, right, shit, like we've got to sort something out here. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah. And actually the ideal situation is that you are ticking over because you've got those foundational pieces in place anyway. So on a normal day-to-day kind of basis, that would be enough for you. And then you go, right, this is an extra now bit of something that's come up. We need to bring even more in. So we're not saying like it's like you're on, hopefully you're not going to be destitute and stuff if you don't do it, but it might be that you just need that extra bit of cash for whatever reason. But putting in those foundational pieces mean that you've always got that as your backup anyway. So that would be your ideal situation.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable anyway, isn't it? To have, like you were saying, like to have that that massive like hit of elation and then be like, oh my God, I'm back to like feeling like crap again because where am I going to get the next almost fix from, isn't it?
Oh,
It's that addiction type thing, isn't it?
Good example, yeah.
Yeah, so no one can live like that and sustain that, and it's exhausting to live like that as well, which is why having the two things is the best possible situation you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. So like these short-term ideas then, which we'll just try and spitball a few in a minute, they are literally designed to go, how can I just get that quick injection? How can I make myself feel a bit better this month if I'm feeling a bit flat? And if you look at it as well if you're struggling with looking at it from a money perspective, I think you said this yesterday and it was just really nice alternative viewpoint, is how can you get some value out to people ASAP? How can you get people in front of you so you can help them in that really short space of time to go, right, what can we do? So one thing we always lean on, as we've already alluded to, is absolutely go back to your current list of people, whether you're working with them or you've recently finished, or your list of inquiries. I say failed inquiries, the inquiries that you didn't manage to close. There'll be a list of people somewhere. And as a side note, if you're not keeping this data anywhere, start, because you never know when you're going to need it. And at least these people already have an element of knowing you, which is going to help.
And also, just because it's a no at that point doesn't mean it might be a no, might not be a no later down the line. Because again, let's look at pain points. The pain might not have been as high and the problem has continued to get worse, because let's face it, a lot of dog owners all go, do you know what? I'll just see how it goes.
You'll grow out of it.
They'll grow out. Oh yeah, that classic, isn't it? Oh, they'll grow out of it. Maybe they'll just stop pulling on the lead one day and my arm will feel better. But like genuinely, that's what people are. Well, they're hoping, but they're really going, I can't really afford that or commit to that time-wise. So I'm just going to say that as a thing. But who knows? Like that annoying behaviour gets worse. That pain on, your arm being pulled out of its socket because the dog's pulling your arm off, that gets worse. And they turn around and go, do you know what? Thanks for reaching out. It has got worse. I'm in.
Yeah.
And you're like, yay, it was worth it. It was worth that kind of, this is the other thing I think we need to broach, is that it's the time it's going to take. Now, the long game again is everything is going to take a bit longer, because that's how it's designed to be effective, to put the time in. With this, I think we still get kickback off this kind of method of going back to people, because we're like, but I haven't got time to go ringing around people.
Yes, very true. Well, I'm going to be the harsh one here then and go, if you really need this stuff, like if you need that money, you'll do it. You will do whatever it takes to bring in some cash, because your dog's life for that operation, that's a life-saving operation, that rides on you getting this right. And if you've not got that drive in you, again, it sounds really harsh, but without that drive, you will amount to comfortable. I'm not going to say nothing, because I don't think that that's fair. I think comfortable it's an example I use because back when I was doing it by myself, I had months of amazingness. Like the best month I ever did was 22K, when I was in this drive mindset of, fuck, I need to get this working. And I was so chuffed with myself getting that in 1 month.
That is a big achievement.
Like, that's somebody's salary in 1 whole month. And it was all like painful stuff with cash in the bank. And that was with people signing up to me on a 12-month program that already knew me and that I'd worked with before. But the downside to that was I then got comfortable because it was enough to sustain me for a while. And then that's where that feast and famine thing comes in again, because I was like, oh, don't really have to do anything. And there was no long play strategy happening in the background. But I realized that I sat comfortable enough for a couple of years. And I was like, So it's not that you can't do it, but you do notice a huge difference. Like when you've got that boot up your backside, or, shit is hitting the fan, you have got the ability and the opportunity to make anything happen.
Mm-hmm.
We did it earlier this year, actually, didn't we?
Yeah.
When we were merging the businesses together.
Well, there's an absolute great example of what we managed to do. Yeah.
That was 1 month where, so for those of you who don't know, we had our 2 separate training businesses and we merged them together earlier in the year, so early 2024. And it was this period where Canine Business Academy was like really taking off.
It was still very young.
It was
new.
young.
I mean, it's still fairly new now.
But it was that growth trajectory, like that big spike where it's like, right, bang, we've landed. Here we go. And there was a lot of investment going out, huge amounts of investment going out. So the businesses were technically in quite a lot of debt, still are in a lot of debt, but a lot of debt. And we were like, how are we even going to pay any of it? Like the debt, pay ourselves with my ridiculous mortgage. And then we realized as well, now that we're business partners, we're like, great, we actually need to bring in double so that we've got to split it equally. And we was like, like we all know this is doable, but there was these couple of months, wasn't it, where it was like, oh my God.
Squeaky pants.
Very squeaky, very squeaky, to the point where my messages to Vic most weeks would be like, got 2 months left to live in my house.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's great for me, isn't it, receiving these messages?
It got down to 1 month, didn't it? And then I was like, oh my God, like that is all I've got left in the bank to pay the bills.
And this is, again, why we get a lot of judgment for reinvesting back into the business. Because you're putting yourself in this position on purpose because you have earned money from this business.
I know. But, and it's not like, I mean, like my bills are astronomical, aren't they? They are a ridiculous amount. But what that means, and the reason I'm saying that is that puts additional pressure on our businesses because of how the business is set up. We have to take equal out. So it's not even a case of, oh, like Vicky's bills are nowhere near mine, just with different mortgage payments and all of the other stuff. You can't just take out what you need for you and me, what I need for me. Like we've got to take equal out. So it's like, shit, that is a fuck ton of money which we've got to try and find each month. So we did this exact same exercise that we're talking to you about now in going, how are we going to get some cash into this business ASAP that's ethical, that aligns with our values and all of the good stuff from the long-term game that we're playing. And we did exactly that. We looked to our existing clients in both separate businesses that were now as one. And we started talking to them and really understanding their pain points. Where are they not either seeing the results or what are they struggling with? And a lot of it came down to time, didn't it?
Yes. Bit of confidence, lack of confidence as well, which we could just take over for them for a bit.
Yep. So what did we end up doing?
So we ended up devising some Trained for You programs. But again, just reiterating what you've just said there, it was absolutely aligned with our values. We didn't just go, and it can appear, I know this, if we say this now, people are going to be like, what? You're just creating work out of no work. And is that right to do that? But we were seeing gaps. We were genuinely seeing people that we'd worked with for a long period of time struggling, but we hadn't really taken the time to do that before. So it isn't something that, okay, it was one day we went, right, how can we do this? But also like we hadn't really sat back and gone, Joe, that person, they've been with us a little while now, but they're still stuck on that point there. Or that dog, I can see there's just this little bit we need to get past, and then that'll make their life a whole lot easier. And so, like, you know, you just said, we started talking to them and we went, we've got this idea. Would this help? No pressure. Would it help? Yeah. That sounds amazing. So we put bespoke Trained for You plans in. Now, Trained for You isn't something we offer. We don't have it as an outward facing service. People wouldn't know that's what we do. We don't do it for everybody. You know, we wouldn't do it for brand new clients either. And it worked. It worked, didn't it? And it was all, the programs were completely bespoke. Some were longer than others. Like we got a 12-month program out of one. We got, which we're still doing now. We got a couple of like 2-week intensives. Then we did like a couple of months one. And you know what? Like the difference it's made to those people as well is amazing. So it all comes from like integrity. It all comes from the right place. But look what it's done. It's a win for the client and it's a win for us because we managed to bring in a load of cash in that couple of months.
Yeah. And I love looking at it as that win-win bit, because if it's only going to be like a one-sided win, you should never do it.
No. And I would never have let us do it.
No.
You wouldn't have let us happen either.
No, we just can't do it. So if we were literally just looking at it from a money grab and it was a shit service that we were going to offer, it's like, well, actually our values wouldn't allow us to do that. But like you say, because we knew those clients and we were able to really look at where we could add value, that's what we did do. And I think it's also worth noting here that if for this short-term bit as well, the reality is when you're looking at it from a business point of view, you absolutely need to have some high-ticket offers. I find it very difficult to see how you can generate large sums of money when you're a one-man band, having to do everything, and then you've got to suddenly fill your diary with, even if you're offering, I don't know what the going rate now is for like 5 sessions, between 350 and 450-ish, within that bracket, like isn't it? Less than 500, between 4 and 5, let's say. But you've got to do a hell of a lot of work to get all of that sold. So if you have a higher ticket offer out there, it takes okay, you may speak to 10 people and only sell 1. But if that program is a grand or above, then I'd rather be selling 1 out of 10 than trying to sell every single person that comes in and having to deliver more, because it allows me to deliver a higher quality service, because I'm going to be on my game, I'm going to be rested, I'm able to offer more. And there may be some of you out there listening now that goes like, oh, the cheek, how dare you charge that much money for that poor person that just needs help and their dog. And I totally get that. And I'm with you. However, I can't do everything for free. If I do everything low ticket, then how does that impact me and my family selfishly? And like even in this business example, if we do that, then that impacts both of our families. So now that's more people that are affected. And actually, it's going to impact so many people that I'm no longer going to get to help with their dogs because I've had to close my business down because it didn't earn any money.
And also the other thing, we've been talking about this a lot recently as well, is that it becomes dog training for those who do it day in, day out is so bloody easy. Like most of you listening to this, or a lot of you listening to this, will just be able to take any dog, like be past any dog and just do your thing and work your magic on that dog without even thinking twice about it. It's that second nature thing, right? And so like when we're helping people and we are coaching them, or we're taking the dog from them and we're doing that work, for example, on a Trained for You program, it doesn't feel like work. It almost feels like we're cheating them. If we charge them more than we think they should be charged, we're like, oh, that's not fair. They can't afford it, like you just said there. And it's like, it's your craft. It's your thing that you live and breathe and put loads of money in and loads of time in. And it's just because you've got it so bloody super awesome. And actually, I would say to anybody that's going, oh no, I'd go, well, you're so good that you're not really realizing that it's a skill that you've got that other people don't have. And it's a bit like this business. Like we're having a conversation on the way here today about we live and breathe this and the business stuff. And we don't feel like it's anything. We're like, oh, we're just saying this thing. And it's like, people don't know it. It's come so easy to us, but it doesn't come easy to other people. And so like when you're talking about that skill you've got and that magic sauce that you've got, it's not something that you've just like learned overnight. And it's not something that you shouldn't charge people the right amount of money for in return. And if those people are like going to value that, you know, we take that dog off that person and we go away and we do the training and we pass it back and we do a review session, if that is going to change somebody's life, okay, they've made the investment to get it, but surely that's like a fair exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything has to be looked at as that value exchange, that win for them, that win for you, win for the universe, win for the dog. It's a win for everybody. Because if any one of those things is off, it's never going to work. And this is where bringing in this cash quickly into your business. And I feel like we could talk on this episode probably for like a whole day of content wise, because a lot of money mindset comes into this. It's decisions get made from fear when you're worrying about money. Decisions get made from a place of, I'm going to say defensiveness, if that feels right under that category. So those examples of like, how dare you charge that much money for that dog? You know, and was just super passionate about something. So it's that defensive nature. But when we're in all these limiting mindset thoughts, you are never going to get out of that situation that you're now in, where you've got to pay for that operation for the dog, or your house is on the line. If you're stuck in that headspace of, oh, what do I do? Or we lean in on longer term strategies, hoping that it's going to work as a short term fix. It's never going to happen. It's a bit like we said yesterday, didn't we? That, you know, these dog owners that ring up and go, oh, but can you just like fix it now? Like, can I just have that? How many of you, being honest with yourself, as business owners, have thought, if you've seen something on social media, normally like an ad maybe, or if someone's promising something, like, ooh, if I do that thing, so if I spend, I don't know, 10 quid on that lead magnet that then tells me how to get 10K a month by doing these social media posts, all of a sudden, if I do that thing, if I invest that £9, that's going to give me a 10K month. It will give you 10K months eventually. I'm pretty certain of that, but that's a long play strategy.
Yeah, and also that might only be one element of a bigger strategy anyway. And this is the other thing that we're seeing quite a lot of, isn't it? Is that add-on stuff, you know? So like there's somebody offering a core product, and then, or there's a little bit of something extra that you can do and gets you some results. And you're like, well, without the whole thing, like how is it ever going to make a change?
Yeah.
So like, let's look at the business elements. Like if you just take one of the elements we talk about and just do that, great. That's never going to be a bad thing for your business. It's only going to be a positive thing. But without the rest, it's never going to be sustainable anyway. And it is exactly like dog training, because if you only work on the one thing and you don't consider the rest, is the dog going to be well and truly fixed? Is it going to be, are you going to fully understand them? No, you're just going to understand that tiny little element of what you've worked on. You're not going to see the bigger picture result.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And then you saying that add-on bit, if you then suddenly do the same in your business and you tag on so like us, for example, like we do long-term programs. Then if all of a sudden we just randomly came out with, oh, do you want like a consultation? Discount, 50 quid or 80 quid. Do you know what I mean? Like something just really low ticket. If I just get you in the door, then I can upsell you or do whatever I need to once you're in. Oh, but again, the problem is that should be a long-term strategy, that you offer something to then upsell them to. But when we do it from a place of fear, or what I like to refer to as get energy, like I just need to get some money and I need to get the sale. When we're operating from that space, it comes across that way. We're like, oh, so that's just completely come out of the blue. That's not aligned with anything that you're doing. But hey, I might take you up on it. And hey, it might work. You might get a couple of 80 quid sales.
But also, if you really want to work with people for a longer time, the people you're going to attract for the one session or one day thing, they're not going to be the right people for you anyway. So you're only going to end up with more people that you don't want by putting something like that out to them. Because let's face it, they're going to be attracted to it. If it's like, oh, quick fix thing, which is how they're going to perceive it, I'm afraid, if it's a session, it's going to be fixed in a session. If you offer a session of anything or a day of anything, it's only going to be a limited amount of information you're going to be able to get to somebody in that time. And okay, arguably, again, there could be some value in it. It will be a good start, but without any other anything off the back of it,
buy-in bit's not there.
It's not gonna go anywhere, is it? So you're literally gonna go, right, cool, I've got you in. Let's do this. Bye. Or please buy this other really big long thing that I've got. And they're like, oh, hang on a minute, I've only just spent 80 quid on a thing. Do I really want to then spend a few £100 on something else? Don't know.
Yeah. It's all a bit risky. It's hit and miss whether or not it works. So I think our advice is invest your time and energy knowing that it's a long game. And that might sound a bit bleak. bleak. But it's not. It's if you invest in the strategies for the long term, it will work. It absolutely will, but it doesn't help with the interim bit. So think of some short-term stuff. And I promise you, going back to people you already know is always the best place to start. If you're just starting out and you've got no one, how about going a little bit old school and doing some door knocking on the streets? I genuinely did this at one point.
Did you?
Well, yeah, because I figured in my little area, just where I walk the dogs, even if I just walk around the block, there's easily 50 houses, easily. And I would say that I know of, because I'd see them on my little walk, at least 10 of them have got dogs. There might be more, who knows? But that's 10 people on my block. I haven't even had to walk very far. It's like 10 minutes. And if I knocked on the door and was just like, oh, hi, I'm Joe, I'm a local dog trainer. Even if they didn't need any help, they're like, I didn't realise you live just around the corner. It's like, yeah, hi, that's me. Because I didn't have a branded car or anything. I didn't do any of that. But they were like, oh. And then all of a sudden, I had a few people message me from the other streets. And I was like, oh, where did you find out about me? I was like, oh, in the local Facebook group. I was like, I never posted in that group. But it must have come from people that I'd just spoken to. So again, it's just thinking outside the box and going, how can I actually just get in front of someone?
And even with that same strategy in mind of finding people and reaching out to people that have dogs in the local area, like having somewhere to send them to so that they can start learning about you, in that way. Again, we're talking more of a long-term strategy here, but let's think immediately, let's go say, hi, I'm Joe, I do dog training. Do you need any help? But also I've got this place where you can hang out. So that could be a Facebook group, it could be an email list, it could be a free thing that you want them to sign up to, and then you get their details. So let's again think, how can we cross those two things over and go, how can we get some cash right now, and how can we keep these people on board? Even if it's not for them right now, we've got somewhere to put them when they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's strategies that are just overlooked so much, because I think in this day and age, I feel like I'm people bashing today, but I feel like we've actually just all gone as a human a bit lazy.
Oh yeah, in every aspect of life anyway.
I'm just going to wait for people to come to me. If I put this thing out, then people are going to come to me. Because
it's that social media expectation probably, isn't it? Everything's quick and everything happens straight away. And if we don't get that happening straight away, we're like, oh, why are they not coming? Why are they not knocking down the door of social media door to come to me? God, I feel my stomach rumbling again. I always get stomach rumbles when I do podcasts. And then, of course, quickly touching on it, because this is probably a whole episode in itself as well, is reaching out to other people in your area that work with dogs, but in a different capacity, that cross-audience thing, because you've got a load of people that potentially, if they've got a dog and they go to a groomer, if they have a dog walker, if they use a boarding kennels, go talk to them, go introduce yourself, go, hi, have you got anyone that you know immediately that could do with some dog training help? Great, could you put us in touch? I'm going to reach out.
Yep.
It's that kind of attitude. It's that I'm going to find them. I'm not going to wait for them to come and find me.
Yeah. Was it the episode with Hannah Malloy we did? And she said she used to just stand in the park.
And Michael.
Yeah. Yes. So go to the places where dog owners are. But it's not difficult. But we make it incredibly difficult. And then this is where actually it's a big mindset thing again, isn't it? Because we go, well, yeah, you could go and do that. But then, oh God.
It's that fear of...
I've got to speak to people.
I think a lot of these, the reason people don't do a lot of these currently is that fear of rejection thing, which is so strong, Absolutely. Isn't it? We might look, let's face it, we might look an absolute dick. But do you know what? If we get one sale off the back of it, who cares? And actually, you might think you're going to look a dick, but I don't think other people are going to think that. They're going to be like, fair play to her or fair play to him, just putting themselves out there and going, who wants to have a chat? Yeah. Go and offer to chat in at the vets or go and offer to chat at the local pet shop.
Yeah.
You know, you could actually, someone we were speaking to recently said that they just struck up a collaboration with a pet shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Alice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She was going to go and start like just a week, I don't know how often it was going to be, but like a little mini chat thing. People can come and ask her any questions, like a little Q&A in the pet shop. What's it at half an hour of your time every month or whatever? What a great opportunity to get to know you.
There's so much to be said for doing it. And actually, I'm gonna big up my husband, Darren, right now, because he has just started up his own business doing groundskeeping. I feel like I should know a bit more about this. Something to do with gardens. Who the fuck knows? Yeah. It's not quite landscaping. It's more
maintenance,
mowing, maintenance, that kind of stuff. And he's literally started from nothing. He's got no client database, so he can't do what we've just said and said, well, lead in on your existing clients or past clients or any inquiries, because he's got none, starting from scratch. And what he has done in the space of, I want to say like 3-4 weeks, with nothing, I would say he's generated 4 to 5K worth of work. Now, he's reinvested a lot of it back in equipment and everything. But to start from nothing, and that has just been grafting of, he's been doing some door knocking. He's been speaking to some local businesses. So actually the nursery that we send our kids to, because it's like 10 acres of wooded land and everything, it's amazing. He just asked to speak to the business owner one day, who then put him in touch with the landowner and said, do you need some help with the mowing? And it was at this time when, you know, like that period between, so it was after No Mow May, that was when it was. Yeah. So everything was just, I mean, there's wild and there's wild. So he said, like, do you need this sorting? Because I can see that there's a potential problem here with all the kids coming back and everything. And now he's picked that up as a regular job, like just maintaining that bit of land. And then off the back of it, he's now established a really good relationship with that landowner, who's put in touch with some other landowners because he's doing an awesome job. And he's grafting, he's going out on Facebook groups and reaching out to people himself. Let's face it, he's still doing the odd little me, pick me on some of those posts, but I have to stay out of it. And Darren, yes, I know you're listening. But he's doing a lot of things really, really well. And that's why, like, it's going to be a success.
But that's that impressive go-getter attitude, isn't it? Like, if you need to make it work, it has to work. You'll find the ways to make it work. And that's a perfect example, isn't it, of how to do that as well.
And that drive is needed because, again, we've got childcare to pay for. We've got astronomical bills. And now with both of us being self-employed, like, fuck my life, why are we doing this to ourselves?
Well, one of the dog trainers we are currently working with, she's just left her safety of her paid employment job, and in the first month she's made 8K of being fully self-employed. Like, she's already a dog trainer, but she's just gone all in. 8K, and that is from, she got previous connections which had built up her network already, so she'd reached out to some of those people and some previous clients that she'd done like one-offs with or whatever. But she's done that by being proactive and getting out there. And she also uses social media very savvily. Like, she's very good at doing it. So there is a little bit of, you know, of that involved, but pretty much it's like that. Just go get it.
Yeah. The drive,
fair play, she's
energy,
done it.
Being aware of the long-term and short-term as well, those different strategies and how you can blend them and then what needs to be happening.
Yeah.
It's just, you all have an amazing opportunity out there to earn unlimited amounts. And I know I've said it a few times in this, but I'm going to end it with that message, because you have these superpowers in you. You have the ability to craft something so incredible that nobody will believe the amount of impact you can have for your life, both financially and freedom from a time point of view, and impacting your clients' lives. Like, there is so much magic that can happen, and you have it within you. You've just got to scratch the surface and try and find it a little bit.
Yeah. Get creative.
Yeah. So if you have enjoyed listening to today's episode, please do give us a like and share. And if you fancy it, I haven't done this plug in a while, leave us a little review.